Good morning.
Hey Lloyd, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, me too, man. Is the weather as good as your background?
It's stunning,
Oh, nice.
and I don't know if you've noticed, but the birds are starting to sing in the morning
Mm.
again. Uh, and I don't know if I've ever actually been conscious of that, but for some reason I've just noticed it now. Um, I think that's a really good sign that spring is close. Would that be on the money?
Nice time. Yeah, it is. It's getting. I love this time of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
It's-
I was talking to a friend the other day who lives in Argentina. Well, no, he's from Argentina, and we were chatting about my wife's recent trip to Argentina and the experience going there in winter. And I've been to Argentina in winter before. It's a nice time of year to go as well. Very similar, to New Zealand's winter. When you get those really cold, crisp mornings, but brilliantly blue sky, and that's kind of the weather we've got here in Tauranga today. And anyway, I said to him, "What is the best time to go to Argentina to visit?" And he said, "Spring."
yeah.
I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because it's not too cold and not too hot." And I know being in Argentina in December, when I arrived off the plane, this is some time back, it was like 40 degrees and it was just unbearably hot. So I think I could really relate to that. Like spring is kind of like the Goldilocks zone, in Argentina. Because it gets pretty hot over there in summer, yeah.
Yeah, and also cold in winter, but depending where you go. But if we are talking about Buenos Aires, which we tend to talk a lot about Buenos Aires more than anything else, but it's a very it's a very long country, so you can go down south and have it
Mhm.
Patagonia totally different, and up north is far more tropical. But yeah, Buenos Aires is probably the same latitude as Sydney and Auckland, very similar.
Similar. Have you
So
have you spent much time in Patagonia?
yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there a few times, and just it's stunning. It's like South, well, the bit that goes through close to the mountains is like South Island on steroids. I really like South Island more than that because the South Island of New Zealand, everything is approachable. Like everything, the lakes are a size that you can actually see the end of the lake, or the mountain you can actually climb. When you go to Argentina, the lake is like, whoa, where does it finish? Or the and the mountain is just impossible. Like to it's so big that you can't actually comprehend or actually have access to that. So that's why I like South Island more because you feel like you it's more proportional to our to our sort of capacity to appreciate things. But
Mm,
it's beautiful, yeah. And then there is the rest of Patagonia when there's not next to the mountain is very very
yep,
arid.
yep,
And
right.
there's actually very dry, nothing.
Flat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
flat and arid, and there's no much. It's like probably somewhere in central Otago, maybe.
Hmm.
Uh, if I'm not, I haven't been there, but that's my my take if we want to compare something.
Yeah. When you said South Island, I was immediately thinking of the Milford Sounds and Fiordland area. I had the privilege of going there when I was a lot younger, but I vividly remember just like the landscape was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
And I heard someone refer to it later in my life as God's country. And it really stuck with me because I thought, yeah, if 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 that's, a place of divinity, that's absolutely 100% on the money because it just seems kind of out of this world. That the landscape is incredible. And then when I think about Patagonia, I imagine it to be quite similar. And I wonder, like at some stage in the Earth's history, whether Argentina and New Zealand might have been formed as one.
Maybe, yeah, for sure. But
With
it's
with
but yeah, it is it is beautiful as well. Argentina is beautiful, and but they have so many different Argentinas that normally, or at least myself, when I start talking, my head is in Buenos Aires, which is not the full picture at all, not even half a picture. But yeah,
Do you
uh,
follow the rugby?
oh, lately I wasn't following anything like football. Or every now and then, if the time can, if I somewhere and somebody's doing it, I watch it. But and this was the case this weekend. I had the luck to go to Rarotonga on my job, and I spent 1.5 days there, and it was stunning. And then I went for a walk, and I saw a bar at the beach that had a sign saying Argentina versus All Blacks, and I step in and I watched the game. Yeah. Uh,
Oh,
in Rarotonga with lots of All Black supporters. And yeah,
oh,
it
well,
was.
I mean, at this stage, I should say commiserations on the result. I was kind of, I might have been like setting you up there for this next segment.
Oh, yeah, no problem. No, there is no expectations that Pumas will win.
Oh,
However,
I don't know because
there were surprises lately. And the funny thing is that when I came to New Zealand in 2002, the idea of even competing in this level was like almost impossible, like impossible. I think that the Pumas at that time, the Argentinian national team, was probably at the same level as it was at that time NPC, that the provincial rugby, not even Super Rugby. And then slowly in 20 years, the sport started developing like in a big um in a big manner. So it's just for me it's a dream that we can even talk about a close score.
Yeah, but that just shows what a long way they've come, to be competing as well as they're competing now. And
Yeah.
I think the game on the weekend was a lot closer than the score suggests.
Mm.
Um,
On the other side of the coin is just having the All Blacks like for 20 years staying sort of in that leading space, all right, of world rugby, which is with up and downs, but I mean always there. So it's just also incredible.
have you ever like you're in Rarotonga and I mean I'm starting to think you have the best job in the world, but that's a side topic.
Mhm.
Um, uh, have you noticed the difference in the way Kiwis observe and kind of interact with sport compared to Argentina? And a little backstory for this one. I sat down to watch the game on the weekend because it was a really nice time, like 9 in the morning. So I thought, oh, perfect, have a cup of coffee, have my breakfast, and watch the game. And I haven't watched an All Blacks game for a long time, actually. So it was kind of a novelty to sit down and enjoy a rugby game again. It's kind of a thing I've um, tried to do a little bit more of these days is get back into watching sport. I used to watch a lot of sport. So I thought, yeah, I'll sit down and watch the game. And I was kind of, we were doing a ride, and then the All Blacks would score a try or something like that, and then I'd find myself like that. Okay, and then from the kitchen, my wife Mariana's like, she gets really annoyed when she hears me clapping like that. She says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "They just scored a great try." And she says, "Oh my God, you Kiwis are just terrible at watching sport. Why don't you show some passion? Like get up and start like celebrating." And it's not the first time she said that to me. And I suddenly became really self-conscious. Like I'm like, yeah, she's actually kind of right. I mean, that is kind of how Kiwis sort of observe sport. If you've ever been to a match like Eden Park or in Hamilton or wherever, like a live event, have you actually paid attention to how Kiwis observe and celebrate? moments during the game. Like,
Oh
really,
my
a
God.
lot of the time, it's kind of a bit like, like.
Oh my God. Yes, don't get me started because I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a lot of enemies. But my my thing about the All Blacks crowd, it's not every crowd, but the All Blacks crowd in New
Yes.
Zealand is like for me it is incredible, like a big question mark. It's like I think I have the feeling that every time people go to see the All Blacks, they expect like a very easy game. So
Oh.
there's already like sort of an expectation. So if they win for more than 20 30 points, you see these two blokes coming out of the like, okay, yes, of course, yeah. Not celebrating. It's like, yes, of
Thumb
course.
slaps.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, we 10 points is like, oh, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. We won by 10 points. A close game is like, oh, this useless, and they have all this grumpiness. There is never so the wins are not
Mm.
are expected. There's
Mm.
no it's just a level of cockiness sometimes of the because of the history of All Blacks. I don't know what it is, but it's a bit annoying in a way that it takes the
It kind of
everyone takes it for
diminishes
granted.
it, but it diminishes the atmosphere of the game. Like if I mean, it's also kind of like ironic that the All Blacks, the uniform is all black, right? And then the crowd goes to the game, and you see a lot of like, particularly the older generations and winter, they have their black and their blazers and their black scarves and black. And when you're in a stadium full of that, and then the way they're kind of like, oh, yeah, that was a really good try, Rob. Kind of like, am I at a rugby game or am I at a funeral?
Yeah,
Like where
yeah, and
where
there's a
where is the passion? But my wife, she kind of brought attention to me, and on the weekend, I'm sitting in my lounge, and I'm one of these people. I'm not wearing all black, but I'm kind of like, oh, yeah.
great.
Where
And
is the passion? Where is the celebration? Where is jumping up and down? And I remember when I watch the World Cup final, Messi and the Argentina team, everyone knows this, fantastic win. And I was jumping up and down and screaming you know, like a school kid, and we were all, the whole family, Marianne, all of us, we were just celebrating in a completely different way that we normally celebrate, rugby. And the same kind of, you go to the pub here in New Zealand for an All Blacks game, and the atmosphere is kind of similar. It's not, people are not really like really passionate about it. What's up with that?
I think the passion is there, but it's very sort of suppressed, like
Rest, yeah.
it's very internal. Like I think there is some. I mean, it's a sport, all right. It's a game that we choose to support, and we choose to have the emotion and get into that. And it's not if you get more like philosophical or spiritual, it's like, well, it's just an artificial way of getting getting emotions, all right. But let's say that let's give some validity to that, and even to football and to everything, because it comes to a point like in Argentina that football actually rules the emotion of many people throughout their lives.
Yeah,
That the
well,
last,
you're talking spiritual. I mean, it is alongside religion. Sport in Argentina, like the local football team,
yeah,
La Boca or Gimnasia
yeah,
Gigantes, all those teams, um, they are all like religious entities. This is a serious part, a fundamental cornerstone of life in Argentina,
yeah.
alongside, like religion as well, right?
The emotions involved.
Yeah.
I every time I go to Argentina, I try to get my friend invites me very generously to a very nice sport in the River Plate Stadium, and every time I go, they play locally like every single week, all right, and there is no visitors allowed to go to the stadium because
Yeah,
otherwise,
yeah.
so
There's a problem.
local team. River Plate already expanding the stadium, and I think it's about 85,000 people that go. And for a league game, every time it's full.
That's crazy.
Like
85,000.
85,000 people. It's a big city, but it's 85,000 people all the time. And they sing the whole, well, the Boca Juniors fan will say that we don't sing the whole game, but yes, we sing the whole stadium, singing the whole game. And also that actually, it's just incredible. The emotion, the energy. It's like, and that feels also your soul in a way
Yeah, right.
artificially or the way it is. I don't know how it works. I don't want to go in depth to that, but it is a real release. It's a real practice,
Mm,
real soul practice. It's a real energy practice. So also when things don't go well, also it touches your emotions a bit and might. So I don't know. I was actually looking. It's very interesting when I go to Argentina and see that because sometimes sometimes most of the time it's over the top.
right.
The
Yeah.
whole thing is over the top. It's like how much energy are you living here of your life
Mm,
game, and most of the times, eh, don't know. It's very circumstantial. Everything passes. It's not even important.
mm.
But yeah, it's just as you said, it's part of a ritual.
A ritual, but they
Yeah,
take it really seriously in Argentina. Like
yeah.
I remember visiting my wife's hometown in La Plata some years back, and we're having dinner at home, and I think her father invited one of his friends, and his friend turned up in wearing a Estudiantes,
Just oh, trouble.
and my wife's sister's partner is a big gimnasia fan.
Yeah,
I hope I got
yeah,
those
yeah.
names
No,
correct.
you're right.
But
You're doing right.
that is a big rivalry in the area, right? Estudiantes and Gimnasia. And there was a real problem around the dinner table that night. I remember the tension was like palpable. I was like, wow, I never experienced anything like this. There was like um, Pablo, I say his name, but the Gimnasia fan, he was really, I think, offended that this guy had showed up wearing the enemy's kind of kit, and I felt like it just wasn't a kind of a laugh off moment. It
No,
felt like he was really upset, like on a on a level, a deeper level. And that really struck me as something I had never experienced before. Like in New Zealand, when we talk about rivalries, particularly for rugby, it's like Australia, the Wallabies, the All Blacks. That's always been a thing, but it's never been a thing to that level. I really struggle to understand that. Maybe you can tell me the difference there. What's
I don't have it. Well, all I can think is that polarization has been
Mm,
a big tool for controlling people in forever in places that are a little bit corrupted, right?
mm.
And especially when there's a lot of passion around and
When you say polarization, you mean
like having a black
creating extremes in different.
creating extremes and something bad. Yes, yesterday, no, today in a chat, we were joking about the polarization in Argentina. Everything is polarized, like
Right.
politics, music. Uh,
Mm.
um, my first experience with polarization in music. There was a festival in 1982 where there was a big music festival, and he ended up in trouble because in the same place were heavy metals and hippies. And they said, what is that in Argentina? Heavy metal and hippies,
Yeah,
and
what a combination.
it was a big mess. Or or the rockers and punks, or the and but real violence. So it's something that is that I don't know is fed, or society actually. And this to these days, politics in Argentina is like right and left. It's like
Yeah.
influenced everything, like dinner tables, families,
Mm.
and I think also it's a way probably for people to belong to something or to have some sort of affiliation. And um, I'm not sure. I think that in societies that are more moderate. I'm not saying that there are no polarization. There's no polarization in New Zealand.
Oh, for sure there is. Yeah.
There is, but it's probably more. It's less in the surface. Um,
Maybe not so extreme
yeah,
like this that you're talking about.
yeah. So everything in New Zealand for me is very mild, which is
Mm.
nice. It's very pleasant and mild.
Mm.
Uh, uh, there are ways. That's why sort of when the freedom fighters were in the parliament, that was like whoa. And then during COVID, what's happening? Then
Mhm.
finally there is emotion, right? There is real fight, or
Mhm.
little fights that are happening in communities. But yes, everything here is very mild, and also trying not to interfere with the well-being of everyone. All right, but in Argentina, that doesn't happen. It's constant.
Mm.
And it's a way of being as well, a way of living, and some people address that. I think the new generations are not that attached to that, but yeah, even I don't know. It's but it seems to play a purpose on for in the big scheme of things is controlling, all right, but because you create more polarization and people are divided, they cannot think together, they cannot express themselves, they all. But
Yeah.
on the other hand,
Yeah.
it gives people purpose.
Exactly. There's power and unity, right? They don't want that, the people in power.
But also people feed from the purpose of supporting a football team, or an idea,
Right.
or
It's an identity.
an identity, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. But taking it to that level of extremes, and I guess bringing it back to how we started the initial conversation around the rugby, and the way that Kiwis celebrate sport versus Argentina. I mean, you can see, I think the game on the weekend was in Cordoba. Did I
Yeah,
pronounce that right?
yeah, perfect.
And you can just see the difference in the atmosphere of the crowd there versus something like Eden Park. And then, you know, uh, that's just normal, right? That's you go to a match there and you expect that kind of excitement and the passion and noise and there's drums and it's all on, right?
Yeah,
Here and it's
whistling.
like, huh?
There was a couple next to me in Rarotonga, and the lady turns to the guy and said, "Wow, these people are whistling. I thought when they're gonna kick a penalty." And I said, I thought that wasn't allowed or
Not
something."
loud. Yeah, well, in New Zealand,
And,
it's probably like,
and I
frowned upon, like, oh.
and I intervened, and I said, "I'm sorry, I'm Argentinian. I have to apologize on behalf of all of that."
No, 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 no apology needed. I think it
No, but I said it sort of that's how we live. Like that's how
passion is passion, right? I mean,
yeah. The passion is a tricky word because under the name of passion, there's a lot of stupidity, all right, but attached to passion and justifications and things. But it's definitely a social thing, that something it has to be someone. I think there's a lot of uh, books and conversations about that. Same with bands. Foreign bands are going to Argentina, and the crowd goes crazy. If you check in YouTube, put Argentinian crowd and you will not understand. Like
yes.
in English, like
Yeah.
people trying to sing in English, like the whole
Yeah.
show. Looks like the show is not what I get from music show is that the crowd is performing for to the artists.
Yeah.
So the crowd takes over the artistry. And that's another thing that I believe sometimes the crowd feels more important than everybody else. So the crowd as a collective
Yeah.
wants to be more important than
Ah, but
also the self.
for a band, is that not like
Oh,
is
it's incredible.
that not incredible in terms of energy? I mean, the worst thing that you can, I think, as a band is to play to a crowd that's listless, that's just kind of like, oh, just
But
they feed
check
off the energy.
check Eddie Vedder talking about from Pearl Jam talking about the Argentinian crowd. Check Noel Gallagher talking about the Argentinian
Oh,
crowd.
totally.
And watch the AC/DC in River Plate. It's just like nuts. Like
I seen a video once of Chris Martin. Do you know Chris Martin?
yeah, yeah.
Chris Martin is the lead singer of Coldplay. I think he even said Buenos Aires is one of his favorite places to go and play, South America. Um, and
And, but
he,
that let's not get that focused in Buenos Aires because some other people from other places in South America will
okay, okay.
contest that
And
because
to say Argentina in general.
yeah. But if also Argentina, but I think Brazil as well has
Yeah, 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 yeah.
some of that credit. Like there are shows in Rio that are like out of this world, like million people and something. But anyway, but
He play as part of his gig. He played a Soda Stereo track.
yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, amazing.
And in Spanish, like the
Yeah,
whole song, and the crowd went
no.
completely bananas. Um, and for me, that really struck me as, like something incredible, like that there is that relationship, and how the crowd is just such a vital kind of part of the energy of even if it's not music, it's sport too.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and that's also related to how people live. All right, in
Mm,
each country, and I don't think there's a straight comparison between two countries. It's just very silly to do.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
But in my experience, everything, as I said before, in New Zealand is very mild, but also is conducive to to the way we live here. Everything is it's sort of manageable, quiet, emotionally. All right, everything goes underneath. All right, in a way, because there's not a lot of outlets to express yourself unless you find it or you build it yourself.
Mm,
But also, it's also very mild. There's no big no big ups and no big downs in society in general.
mm,
You know what to expect. There's not gonna be road rage. Is not. Yeah, people will say that there is it's crazy, but it's not in comparison to other places. Aggression is not that visible. All right. I mean, yes, you can. Everything that you read in the newspaper is everything that is happening most. So that's so life in New Zealand is very predictable and kind in a way
mm,
in the surface, all right?
mm,
So you know that you're not. It's going to be very crazy if you have some outburst of craziness, all right, in your life.
yeah, I mean, a big thing at the moment is, New Zealand is complaining about the price of butter. But when you go to Argentina, life's really tough, huh?
Oh, well, you got like 100% inflation sometimes in the year, and yes, people worry about the price of butter, but worry about everything, and then you have to release that, and it's always a release. There's always a release, and those places are for releasing. Like,
The outlet that you talk about. So the football stadium is like the shrine. It's the
yeah, yeah, and yeah, but also in daily life, as we talked before, the dinner tables, the going out with mates, the all that, the hugging, the touching, the all of that is the counterbalance of ever changing life, all right? That circumstances change,
Mm.
and that's my appreciate how I see it. I mean, there's no truth on that. It's just my simplistic vision of that. And because yeah, and it's very corrupted and it's unfair and all of that. And
It
I'm talking about middle class and all of that. I'm not talking about also extremes.
There's a huge amount of value placed on family and friends in Argentina, isn't there?
I think so. And in some cases, I think the generations have changed, but in my generation, sometimes it was even tricky because the closeness to family was also sometimes uh,
Tricky.
restricting to, to your freedom. But
True.
also the you know the sometimes you people feel like they have responsibility on your friends group and, and your family, so you need to stay around and
Mm,
live in your group.
mm,
It's a bit of
break out. It's sort of a
yeah, a difficult thing to do. I could do it, and it was great, and my group of friends were amazing, and we still in touch. But it was for some people, it's very hard to do, to
mm,
break those friends group
those-
or the family. Yeah,
yeah.
which you see in New Zealand is actually the almost not existent, but it's even encouraged. All right, just go.
Mm, yeah. Just yeah, at young ages too, right? 17, 18, 19, kids are moving out. They're traveling, they're going overseas, they're very there's a lot more independence, I guess, or here in New Zealand, I think.
Emotional independence as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And that like everything, isn't it? I mean, it's a constant balancing act. You know, you gain one thing here, you lose another thing here. In Argentina, you have a lot more contact and emphasis on family and friends, but then that can become a little bit stifling and you don't always have the ability to move freely or get outside that world. Almost you're going to get stuck, right? But here in New Zealand, there's more freedom to do that. It's more acceptance to leave, to branch out, to start your own business or go overseas or do whatever you're going to do. But then there's a bit more loneliness, a bit more isolation. There's not so much emphasis on families are very dislocated, very spread out. Families or family units, communities are dispersed, so, moving the whole family to chase a job in Dubai or something is acceptable, but then they leave behind the extended family. So all of a sudden, the extended family is, I think, speaking from personal experience here, extended family is something that I really crave and miss a lot in my particular life. And I think when I go to Argentina and I see how families are very tight, not just the family unit, but the extended family, the friends, in Maori culture that refer to that as whānau, like the support, the emotional support that's there through that network is a lot stronger than here in New Zealand. And when I say New Zealand, I'm only speaking, I think, from some cultures, because I know Maori Pacific Islanders, they have more of that. They have more emphasis on family and community here, so they do tend to, I think, feel supported more. But here, I think it's tricky for particularly European pakiha. We are a little bit more kind of spread out, and there's consequences for that, right?
Yeah, good point. Good point that you raised about Maori and Pacific Islands, without naming them as a whole. All right, in Maori or Samoans or Tongans, in their own different culture and their own way. Um, for me, had a lot of South America, right?
Mm,
Of family, of whānau, as you said, and community. And when I done last a year ago, a year of Te Reo Maori, that was not intended to for me to be a speaker, but in Te Reo Maori, but I learned about everything around, the everything about the culture and not everything. I mean, I had been shown a lot of and and I could see that similarity that family first, find out the relationship, the sort of hierarchy as well of
Yeah.
this, yeah, and same in the sometimes it's probably a little bit patriarchal, sometimes matriarchal. That so it is some or used to be in South America,
Mm,
but there is the sense of belonging, all right. To
mm, mm,
in terms of Maori, what I love is the whenua, right? The where you're from, and
mm,
the attachment to the land is for me is something magical that I haven't experienced. All right, I was
mm,
born in the middle of the city in an apartment, so
mm,
yeah, I have no connection to it, to even a tree.
mm,
I have three plants in the apartment. It was too
mm.
much. It was a little bit. I'm exaggerating probably. So, but yeah, it is. There is. So we are probably talking more about the Pakeha world in
Yeah.
New Zealand.
Yeah, it is the reality, I think, and that's probably a conservative English model, as I think for many of us we descend from that lineage. So
Mm,
brought through a lot of those traditions and cultures, and obviously with time and globalization and the way things have shifted, it's become, very acceptable for families to disperse and be at all ends of the globes at different time instead of being closer to the more traditional village environment that you see, particularly in island cultures, and then in Argentina as well, like your village, your tribe,
and you see how is it happen? It is happening with migrants here. Slowly, slowly, but not that slowly. The community is getting bigger and bigger, and we got the rock shows, and now we are producing a theater play that's gonna be in Spanish, and there's a um, typical dances from Argentina, a crew that are doing a lot of things around. There's a lot of things that are growing into keeping for our community just to get back to that sense of family, friends, and all of that.
Are you talking about an Argentinian community within New Zealand?
Yes, yes, and yes, and also Latin in general, but I could talk about this specific for Argentinians, and I think that other countries are doing the same, Brazilians, Chileans, and all of that.
Mm, mm.
So there is a need to have that sort of environment and context.
Yeah, and as a Kiwi living in New Zealand and growing up in New Zealand primarily, but having the privilege of marrying an Argentinian woman, I now have access to that community on a regular basis, and I can tell you that it's incredibly refreshing to see how other cultures operate in my own country. Um,
Mm,
there is a big Argentinian community and Brazilian community here in Tauranga, and I know in Auckland it's big too. So I have a lot of Argentinian friends as a result of my relationship with Argentina over time, and I'm incredibly grateful for that because it's opened my eyes to a different way of living. Yeah, it's just difficult sometimes when you want the best of both worlds, but you can't always have it. I love to have the culture, but without the additional stress and strain of the daily life in Argentina because of inflation and because of corruption and some
yeah.
unfortunate things that have happened over there, which have led to life being a bit difficult, bit hard. But like you say, they still have things that really give them those cornerstones, like family, friends.
Mm,
Uh,
I
What
haven't. I
Or
have a reflection, Lloyd. I interrupted you. Sorry.
no
Uh,
worries. Yeah.
I believe I have a reflection about this. I believe that every culture and whatever Pakeha, Maori, Pacific Islanders, Argentinians, Brazilians, everything is for me is allowed and everything is fine. But the question for the individual is that how much of that attachment to that culture is affecting your mental health, all right? And so everything is fine as long as your mental health is not compromised because of that. If you live in a dark place and you feel that you are so attached to that place that it's influencing your mental health, well, it's time to look at the context, all right? For me, the Argentinian context at some point, it was affecting my mental health. I needed to move.
From Argentina.
Yes, I needed to move. I could not deal with that
Mhm.
myself. I'm not, at some point, I was criticizing that because I was upset.
Mm,
Now with time, I love where I come from and actually promoting that. But I also know what I'm capable of embracing or not, according to my values and on who I am, right? But when you become a slave of your own culture and it's not aligned to your, there is a need, individual need to actually modify things.
mm,
So that's probably my big reflection on this.
mm.
Cultures are all good as long as the individuals they are happy with that.
You're thriving in that culture.
Yeah, yeah, and because otherwise it becomes a burden, like something that you're carrying, your own culture.
Mm.
If you want to express yourself in the game in the All Blacks and then you are in the stands and you jump up and down and everybody around you look at you like if you were crazy, uh, and then you sit down and said, okay, I won't scream anymore in my life because it's not allowed in New Zealand. Um, then part of you is gone.
You feel like you're the guy at the funeral that's laughing
Yeah.
after crying.
Yeah. Or even Argentina, if you are quiet in the stands when somebody scores a goal, they will say, What's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly,
You
exactly.
have no emotions. You have nothing. Yeah, they go and live in Sweden, they tell
Mm,
you,
mm.
and which is stupid, all right? So everything is tricky, but I think everything has to do with how functional what your context is to your values and what you really want to do or not.
Mm. And
But
how,
it comes with time.
yeah, and I guess checking in with yourself at those moments and saying, to yourself, is this still serving me, right? Mentally, physically, spiritually. But then the ability to break away from that, like you did. You left Argentina, I know my wife, she left Argentina, and no one was doing that at that time, she was kind of a free bird. She just flew the coop, so to speak, and that was a big, big, brave, bold decision from her to do that. Completely changed the trajectory of her life. And for you as well, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But you made a decision in that moment, like, this is not serving me. I need to change. That's a difficult decision to make sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is, but it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to be as changing countries. It happens with everything. I know that you are making a very bold decision lately about moving houses.
Mm,
That's a bold decision. That's something that you said. Well, this is not. It's not viable, or it's not helping me. It's not helping. I need to change,
mhm,
move, and to a different proposal.
mm,
And if you have the clarity of doing it, and you go, you do it. Sometimes it's country, sometimes it's a divorce, sometimes it's
A job.
job, sometimes, but it's just understanding that what you actually your context is not serving you. It's not about criticizing your context. It's not about being sort of regretting your context. It's just about what suits you. But to know what suits you, you need to have actually an idea what suiting what suits you. You need to have some little uh, introspection and understand, oh, this is not suiting me, or I'm not feeling comfortable in this situation. I move to the next one.
Yeah, I have something there that I'll offer up, which is something I kind of hold really valuable for me in my life. You know, life is just a series of decisions.
Yeah,
We are changing all the time. Some are bigger, and some are not so big.
yeah,
But whenever there is a bigger decision, like yeah, for us, moving house, selling the house, and then moving to a new location, like I shared with you, is is a big decision for me. You know, change is not always easy, particularly when it involves house to house. You know, I'm very roots bound. You know, I like to lay my roots down, and then I feel settled. And then when I uplift those roots and move again, I feel a bit unsettled. So I'm kind of prepared for that change. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because we have a very clear intention of why we're doing this. You know, we want to clear the mortgage. We want to downsize to upsize, like I said to you. Um, but making those decisions and the introspection you were talking about comes back to me for uh, what I call values aligned committed action.
hmm
Now, that's a big way of saying, whenever I have to make a decision, I always have to come back to what are my values? And is this decision or this action aligned with those values and the overall, direction I want to take my life in? So some time ago, sitting down and actually working on my values,
yeah,
getting an understanding of them. I now actually have an A4 piece of paper I keep here above my desk with it says on the top, it says my values, and it's a list of my values. And some are more some are bigger than others, or they have more like weight. Like as an example, authenticity, resilience, nature, compassion, empathy, love, purpose. Those are just some values that I can rattle off the top of my head. Those values are always important for me to come back to whenever I have to make it a decision. Do I, do I, why am I selling my house? Or why am I leaving my country to go search greener pastures? Or, where am I at with this job? And do I need to make a change? Oh, it feels scary. It feels tough, but I got to come back to my values. And if those things line up, then I think that's a really important exercise to then make that next step, which is the committed action. So values aligned committed action. I think is a really helpful tool for me to come back to whenever I make a decision. So,
I got a question for you, Lloyd. Yes, values aligned to actions, and all of it's good. But my big question is, how do you get to your values? Because I believe it's for some people, and including for me a long time ago, like understanding what my values are was even it was almost impossible. I couldn't even understand what my values were. What
mm.
sort of exercise you've done to get to that point? Understand your values.
Yeah, well, that's a good question because it's not, there are a lot of values you can kind of come to. And I think at some stage there are different values for different stages of your life, depending on what stage you're at. But, and then in saying that, it's always a good idea to go back and reassess your values and see if anything's changed. But you got to start somewhere, right? So the first thing I think, and this is an exercise I would do with a client, is to use a list of values or values cards. And you might start with 50 and you sit down and you go through them together and you pick out which ones resonate with you. It's really as simple as that. Once you've got maybe 30 from that list of 50, then you start looking at dividing them into three categories. The first 10 would be the ones that are really important to you, and then the second category maybe of medium importance, and then the third category would be less but not completely inconsequential. So still important to be in that top list. And then you kind of whittle them down to a bit of a smaller list. And that's basically the process. Once you've got a list of values, it's not like, you know, the Ten Commandments, which are set in stone. I must follow these all the time. It's kind of, you need to be flexible and playful with them as well and be like, well, which values are important in this particular stage of my life or in this particular, you know, decision that I need to make. Maybe they're not as relevant for another stage. Does that does that answer the question a little bit or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is, if that's what you've done, yes, definitely. Yeah, it's quite useful. Yeah, we need to find the cats. Where are the cats?
With the cards, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, look, if I was saying to you right now in this environment, you know, we're on Zoom, I'd just be like, well, I'd share a document with you which has a list of them, and then you just circle the ones that mean something to you. Or, but
Yeah,
ideally, in a situation where we're, you know, having a cup of coffee or in a coaching environment, you know, we'd have physical cards. I have physical cards here, and
nice.
not something I just pulled out of the sky by the way. That's actually something that has been shown to me. An exercise has been shown to me through coaching courses that I've done before where I've been coached and incredibly valuable. It's like a having that document now is like a um I was gonna say like a Bible, but it's kind of like a true it's like a reference point for me. It's a signpost. It's something that I can kind of come back to whenever I feel like I'm maybe at a crossroads where I'm not quite sure whether I'm going left or I'm going right, or am I staying where I am? So it's really helpful, you know, just to have that. And I think that in today's culture, we've really lost sight of that, and probably the education system is a little guilty. I might make a few unpopular, I might make myself a bit unpopular with what I'm about to say, but the education system doesn't fucking teach you this stuff, and it should. From a very early age, you know, values are incredibly important, and you can see that particularly in these in Maori culture, like values and Pacific Islanders, values are all there. But I think, you know, like we don't place enough emphasis on that in our culture. I don't know about Argentina. What can you speak to there?
No, I don't. I believe everybody will have their own sort of personal journey on this, but I
Do you have values?
oh, well, now I do. Now I know. Now I have this. For me, what I created for myself is what makes me make decisions or not. Like whenever something has to be decided, I filter all of that through my values. If it is aligned, I do it. If it is not aligned, I don't do it.
Mm, mm,
I feel if I don't feel comfortable in a place, if it is aligned to my values, but I have that visibility. So but it's an exercise that I've done because at some point I was feeling unhappy in places and I didn't know why, and or doing things and I didn't know why, and what happened is that, well, I'm uncomfortable because my values are not here. I'm adapting and adapting to someone else's values, or adapting to someone or to a context that are not aligned, that's not aligned to my values. So, but yeah, the exercise is to understand what are your values and if you can put a name to them, or and something that you can actually refer to every now and then, and also evolve your values over time when your circumstances changes, or when you really feel that something changed on you and you want to change your values slightly. So you don't need to be a slave of your values, but actually be very genuine and very sort of authentic with your values, and what your values are, because the only the only thing is that we need to actually dig deeper in ourselves to understand where they are and what are those. And that requires to stop, and it requires to reflect. It requires to get in touch with with yourself
Mm.
and stop looking outside of what values you were taught to or what values were sort of ingrained on you but that don't belong to you or values of your context that don't belong to you. They're other people's values. So all that exercise it requires some some uh, attitude and some and being sort of conscious of that.
Yeah, and values is not always something that we can easily access, like
No.
sometimes, we work with a client and it's not easy for the client to attach to the values. They're like, I've got no idea, and that's okay, right? There are different ways to reframe values, and it's like a really good way to do that is to think about values of people that you really respect and admire.
Mm.
Might be like, you know, a figure like Nelson Mandela or someone like that, or maybe even coming back to sporting and rugby or football, like what are Messi's values? What's Richie McCaw's values? What's, like looking at people that you respect and admire and understanding their values, because in there is also something that maybe you can
Well,
use as a guide. They don't have to necessarily be the same, but it gives you an understanding of values and what they mean and how
yeah.
you can see them in action. Like the values of Richie McCaw may be different to the values of Messi, as my values are different to yours. But we can get some guideposts there. Um, and then another way is just to think about your life and the way that you show up in life and the way that your ideal version of yourself would want to show up. So if I say to a client like, in 5 years, where do you want to see yourself and what are you doing and how you're feeling? And that answer will tell me a lot about the values of that person,
Yes,
right?
that's a good exercise. A dear coach of mine, like Rafa, when I he gave me a homework to do, which was if if the optimum Diego would exist, how is that optimum Diego? If you
Mm,
had to create that optimum Diego, so and that was surprisingly refreshing. I wrote a big list of things of
mm,
how Diego
mm,
should look like,
mm,
and what does Diego do, and how does he behave? How does he walk? How does he talk?
mhm,
Even how does he dress? How does he? Um, and and I still use it. Like it's been like three years ago, and I still use it. That's Diego. And if I'm doing something that is not in that list,
mhm,
I either add it because I'm aligned to that,
mhm,
or I either review it. Why are you doing that?
mm.
If it is not what you who you choose to be.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah, coming back to the flexibility of the values,
Mm.
that they don't need to be set in stone, and um, just because you have a list of values doesn't mean that you're going to make the right decision.
No.
And do you have regrets?
Yeah, of course, but
Right? You didn't always make the right decision, but you're still
oh,
here, you're still living, you're still breathing. You probably took some learnings from that wrong decision. Can we even call it a wrong decision in that context?
no, and the exercise in this case is the optimum, Diego. I you can't. I don't believe I could be the optimum Diego all the time, but at least it's somewhere to point to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So same with your list of values, but it's very important to have, in my point of view, somewhere to point to, but something that you have decided for yourself, not that it's been imposed or by anyone. like your own decision, right? And so you are actually responsible for that. Like, I wanted to be like this. Why are you not like that? So you want to change how you want to be, or you still want to keep it how you want to be? Okay, let's do it. And then you keep, you keep working on it.
Mm.
That's so then you work on being authentic with yourself, and you're not cheating yourself.
Mm. Wow. Oh man, another rich conversation. We're just about, I think we're just about at the top of our allotted time, if that's even a thing.
Cool. No,
God.
that was nice. That was super nice, Lloyd.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a before we finish, if there's a takeaway, if you've got, can you share a takeaway with us from today's session? If not, that's okay.
Um, I like I like the idea of uh, culture as context and and your values as how you navigate those contexts and how much you can decide of the context that you are in.
Mm,
And not necessarily because you grew up in a context, you need to actually embrace everything about your context. Um,
mm,
and embrace means not respect it. You can respect it, but you could actually move around and look for the context that is um, that does justice to your values and to yourself.
so you're saying you can kind of immerse yourself in different cultures, take what you need, leave what you don't, sort of thing.
Yeah, and because I've lived in New Zealand for 23 years, and
Mm,
yeah, I know I'm in this context, but also creating my own context within this context, and invited people to this context if it works.
mm,
As the same way other people invite me to their context,
mm,
and and that's how we keep creating new contexts that become culture and become a new thing,
mm,
and yeah, and then it changes again. But some context or some sort of beliefs are so ingrained, at least when I grew up, that they were very difficult to escape.
mm.
That's
Yep,
my
love that.
What's yours, Lloyd?
Oh, my takeaway today is, oh man, I really enjoyed today's conversation. And I can't pinpoint one thing exactly, but I will actually just, for a bit of context, zoom out for a second and just bring awareness to the fact that, we arrived at this session today when we decided to hit record with no idea of what we were going to talk about. And sometimes that's a little awkward space to be in. Kind of like, all right, how's this going to go? But and why do we do that, Diego, right? I mean, why do we do that? Because we want to show up authentically, right? And we want to not come with some sort of prearranged, idea. And so far, I think that served us really well. But today's just been a really nice reminder that we can have rich conversations. And I really enjoyed the brevity of today's, particularly the first half when we were talking about football and sport. And if you had asked me like 2 hours ago whether we were going to touch on that topic, I would have absolutely said you're crazy. But it just shows that if you show up in without any expectation and you're brave enough to just let go, interesting things can happen. And that's my takeaway today that, powerful conversations can happen between two people when you just let go and be honest and be like, what's where it's hands off and where are we going with this conversation today? And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool.
It was beautiful. Yeah, I agree totally.
All right, well, until next time, stay safe and see you on the next episode.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Lloyd.
Bye bye.